As a property investor, there's two core skills that you need to master. The first one is the ability to be able to find deals, and the second one is the ability to be able to continuously find money in order to be able to do those deals. Many people tend to start with finding deals, getting very good at finding deals, and some will either source those deals onto other people, or deal package as some people call it, or become a sourcer. Effectively what they're doing is finding deals and selling them onto other people, or maybe even partnering with them. But the thing many people tend to struggle with is, where do you find the people who are going to buy these deals from you? In this video, I've got 5 steps to help you. Hey, if you're watching my videos for the first time, my name is Saj Hussain, and on this channel I share with you my 15 years of property investing experience to ultimately help you get further faster in your own property investing journey. When it comes to selling deals and finding the people to buy those deals, the first thing we absolutely have to get right is what I call the opportunity. So what do I mean by the opportunity? Well, when you're offering a deal to somebody and somebody's going to purchase that from you or invest with you in it, essentially what we're looking for is mutual benefit. Now, when it comes to a deal, when you're having a conversation with somebody who might be selling a deal, they say, hey, I've got a deal. Do you know somebody that might be interested? And you might say, yeah, I'm interested for a deal. I'm always up for a deal. But what does that even mean? You need to be clear in what the opportunity is that you have available for somebody, so that you can match whether it's going to be right for them or somebody they might know. So what does all this mean? So for example, let's say you're sourcing deals and you're looking for discounted property below market value. Then the opportunity that you are presenting is the ability to be able to buy a property for less than its true value. That's the opportunity that you're offering. Let's say you're finding a property in an Article 4 area where it's got approval to be able to convert to a HMO and it's got the right layout. Here, what you're offering is the opportunity to be able to get up and running with a HMO in an area where it might be difficult, for example, to get planning approval. So you have to understand what the opportunity is that you're offering somebody and be clear what it is for you in your own mind before you can present it to somebody else. Once you are clear with the opportunity that you're offering, the next thing you have to do, the second step, is understand there's different types of investors. So what you need to do is profile your investors to be clear of what type of investor is looking for what. So what do I mean by this? Well, let's say you're looking for somebody to, say, invest with you as opposed to you selling the deal to them. Sometimes people categorize all these as investors, where somebody's either lending money to you or partnering with on a project, maybe even buying a deal for you. It's a loose term people will use for investors. But you need to understand there's different types of investors, and what you need to do is profile those investors to see who's going to be the right type of profile for you to be working with. So what do I mean? For instance, over the years, when I've been looking for people to work with me in terms of funding deals for me, the investors that will build funds into my deals and my projects, what I've realized is 2 key types of profiles. The first one is a steady Eddie. Now, Eddie, what he would like to do is invest his money for the long term to get nice, steady growth. So that might be regular buy-to-let type of investments. They're interested in more modest return, but long-term capital growth. But then some investors are a bit more like Speedy Gonzalez. Now, Gonzalez, what he wants to do is get a result fast. So he wants a much higher return, and his expectations are a higher return, maybe slightly higher appetite for risk as well, but they want to recycle that cash, say, within a year, 2 years. They're not looking to tie up that money for a long period of time. So that's just an example of 2 types of investors that might invest with you. Just thinking about who is going to be the right type of investor for you. On the other hand, it may be the type of investor you're looking for is one that's going to buy the deal from you. So you're just sourcing it onto them. You're not going to be involved in the deal long term. It's really you're just taking a fee for that particular transaction. Now here, what you're looking for is, again, different types of buyers who might have an appetite for different types of property. Just because you've got, for example, a great service accommodation opportunity in the city centre, it doesn't mean it's going to suit anybody and everybody that's interested in property. No, it's going to suit a certain type of person who's interested in that type of investment. So for example, when I first started sourcing, one of the people I was sourcing for was a guy in Birmingham who would buy property. His criteria was it needed to be within 3 miles of the city centre, 2 or 3 bedrooms. Often there were 2 bedrooms. It had to be a house, so no apartments, and under £70,000. Now that sounds like such a long time ago, £70,000. But then at that time, we were finding these deals, and he would buy as many of these as I could find. I'm not sure how he was funding them. At that time, I was quite early in my journey as well, when I was getting getting upskilled in sourcing deals. But what I'd find, he'd buy everything that fit into that criteria. Now, if I turned up to him with a lease option deal, for example, he was just not interested because it didn't fit the criteria. And by understanding there's different types of profiles and you can profile your investors, that way when you're taking a deal to an investor, it should really fit like a glove as opposed to you trying to force something and sell something to them. It's so much easier to sell deals in this way. Hey, if you enjoyed this content, then make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And this way, not only will YouTube show you more of this type of content, but it puts a smile on my face knowing that there is at least one person out there that's enjoying this content. So let's now jump on to step number 3. Step number 3 is, I believe, where most people tend to start when they look at selling property deals. What they start with is, where are all these people that we're going to sell the deals to? Well, actually, you need to get step 1 right, is understanding the opportunity. You need to get clear who you're selling to before you get onto step 3, which is finding where you're going to find these people. And of course, my most favorite place, you may have heard me talk about this before, tends to be network meetings and online forums. That's where I've built most of my contacts and connections in the early days. Well, there wasn't a huge amount of forums. It was mostly live networking events. It was going along, meeting people face to face, shaking hands, understanding what they're doing, learning a little bit about them, and then see if there's an opportunity to maybe do some business together, to work together, or really just build up the contact base. And at the beginning, I would just build this up on an Excel spreadsheet. I started with a few names first of all, somebody I'd met, take the details of their business card, hey, have a little follow-up with them. That's the thing many people slip up on. If you want to learn more about the networking side of this in terms of how to effectively network, we'll link up that video over here for you so you can watch that afterwards so you can learn more of those skills. But essentially at the network meeting, what you're doing is trying to identify who might be a good contact for you. You follow up afterwards with that lead. And then you start learning, because you now already in your mind will be thinking about what's the opportunity that you're offering and also what type of profile investor that they might be. So the kind of questions you might ask. So tell me, what would be a good potential deal for you? So tell me, what type of deals have you already purchased? What kind of deal are you doing right now? What kind of thing is it that you're looking for at the moment? These are the sort of questions that are deal specific that helps you understand what kind of thing that they're looking for. Now, the other thing you also have to do with this is try and dig a little bit deeper rather than accepting the first answer that you might receive. So for example, somebody might say, hey, I'm always looking for a deal where there might be a little bit of a discount on that purchase price. But what does that actually mean? So rather than just accepting that, you might ask for an example of the last deal that they've done or what kind of percentage discount that they're thinking about. So this way it'll help you get really clear of what's the criteria for that individual that you're speaking to. Hey, when it comes to networking, that's most definitely my favorite place to be able to meet people. And hence why I've been running network meetings in a more formal setting for nearly about 10 years now. And we relaunched very recently. If you were at that meeting, you know, there's about 200 people at that meeting, probably the largest monthly meeting outside of London. You should definitely check that out at sajhussain.com/networking. But other ways you can find people apart from networking is online networking. Where's online networking happen? Mostly in groups, on forums, particularly Facebook groups. That's what I'd look out for. And really you're doing the same thing here. You're networking, but you're networking in an online format. You're not there just selling stuff. Hey, I've got a deal, who wants to buy it? You're trying to build relationships and contacts and understand who might be the right type of person, i.e. profiling your investor to identify if they're going to be suitable for the opportunities that you're putting together. Number 4 is the one I learned the hard way. This is vetting your potential buyer or your investor for that particular deal. And what I mean by vetting is really understanding, are they genuinely ready? Have they got everything lined up? Have they got funding lined up? Or, you know, have they got the experience to be able to do this type of deal? Or are they really just tire kickers? And unfortunately, you know, I ended up working with a lot of tire kickers at the beginning by accident, but because I didn't really take the time to understand their experience or their expectations. And hey, I learned the hard way, but it did help me build the experience and understanding, and understand this point particularly, that you need to take the time to understand your potential investor. So let's say they're buying a deal from you. So the sort of questions that I would ask, tell me a little bit about your property experience. What type of deals have you already been doing? What type of deals are you doing right now? What type of deals are you looking to do going forward? Tell me about how many deals you're looking to do right now and say over the next 12 months, and how are you funding those deals? What type of funding arrangements have you got in place? Now, these type of questions, you don't fire them off like an interrogation in that way, but it's really more in a conversational sense. What you're doing is understanding a little bit about their experience, their ability to be able to buy. You know, do they actually understand these type of transactions, or is it the first one they're doing? Now, there's nothing wrong with selling a deal to somebody for the first time, i.e. their first deal, But what you have to understand is that you really need to be hand-holding them a little bit more through that journey. There'll be a lot more unknowns for them, probably a lot more uncertainty, probably lack of confidence possibly as well in doing that transaction. Now, if you're selling a deal to somebody who's bought 10 of you before, that deal's probably going to be much, much smoother than selling it to, say, somebody who's doing their very first deal. Now, as I said, it doesn't mean you don't do business with the first time investor, as it were, but you just understand how much more time might be involved from your part in trying to help them get that deal done. So for example, let's say you've got a deal and they do the survey and they find there's a small amount of Japanese knotweed. For some people, that's enough to scare them off, get them running for the hills. They're not interested, they're not going to be doing that deal. A more experienced investor might take that into consideration and say, look, but depending on what the overall structure of this deal looks like, how much profit they're going to make on it, is it still a really good deal for them? Or in their interpretation of what a good deal is, and they might still be willing to do that deal. Other people, it might be, as I said, they may not be interested. This is where you want to be clear who is it you're working with and vetting their understanding and their experience. The fifth and final step is once you've agreed to be selling a deal to somebody or having them investing with you, you've got to oversee that and monitor the process. So the key here is you've got to monitor what's going on. Again, from my early days experience, what I would do is, hey, fantastic, we've agreed to deal, shake hands, then I'll be off doing the next one and thinking that this one's going to take care of itself and reach all the way to completion. Hey, presto, I'm going to make some money. The reality is many of these deals will fall apart because you're not overseeing them. What you need to do is be overseeing the mortgage brokers, overseeing the solicitors. If it's an estate agent involved, maybe there's some planning that needs to be dealt with beforehand. Who's the architect that's dealing with it? If there's a planning consultant involved as well, there might be some bridgers involved. There might be a mortgage broker. Your job is to be liaising with all these people, making sure everybody knows what's going on and the deal is moving along to reach completion. Because if you fail to do that, the chances of it falling out of bed are significantly higher. And this is not the most exciting part of this, but this is how you get paid. You are not going to make any money out of these deals if you don't get to completion, because that's where your payment happens. If you're selling the deal or if you're working with a deal on an investor and they're going to fund it, it's not going to go anywhere until the completion happens. So making sure you're monitoring the deal all the way up to the completion point. In summary, for those 5 key steps is the first one is to make sure you understand what the opportunities of what you're offering. The second one is to profile your investors, knowing there's different types of investors. Number 3 is recognizing where is it you're going to find these types of investors to sell your deals to. Number 4 is vetting the buyers. And number 5 is making sure you monitor the deal all the way to completion. Hey, in this video, I focused on selling the deals to the investors. However, if you want to learn about the whole deal packaging process, then make sure you watch this video next over here. But just before you do that, make sure you click on my face down here to subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you next on this video just over here.